Today we'll be ranking all the Assassin's Creed games from worst to best. I know there will be people who will disagree with me, and that's fine. Let me know in the comments what your ranking is. For the rules of how I will be ranking the game is pretty simple. The most important points are story and gameplay, and after that comes the rest of the things like graphics and all the other good stuff. Let's get started. First is Assassin's Creed Rogue, and I think this is one of the worst Assassin's Creed's game, mainly because it was kind of their second project alongside Assassin's Creed Unity. Both games were released on the same day. There was, however, one significant difference between them. While AC Unity was released for the next-gen consoles at the time, the PS4, Rogue was still stuck with the previous gen and remastered for the PS4. This impacted a lot on the gameplay side, and it felt like it was just Black Flag with a new skin. The story of Rogue was, I think, its best part, with you being a member of the quote-unquote bad guys with the Templar and Abstergo Industries. But that's just about it for this game. It was really short, and as I said, it felt like Black Flag. The difference between the graphical quality of Unity and Rogue was so vast that no one would believe both the games came out on the same day. Second worst Assassin's Creed game for me has to be Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I think everyone would agree with me on this one. Even Ubisoft acknowledged that the direction they were heading with Valhalla was not the direction anyone wanted. Not gonna lie, the first few minutes got me really hooked with the game, and I played for many hours. But then when they moved to England and I first saw the skill tree, I was really scared because at first sight it felt so grindy. And I was not wrong. Let's first talk about the story. It's in my opinion one of the worst ones in any Ubisoft game, let alone any AC game. The gameplay was not really good. I particularly hated the parkour mechanics. It felt like you just ran up a hill instead of, actually climbing it. The game is very long, and I actually had to take a 3-month break before completing it because I was exhausted. The only good thing about Valhalla was its graphic and world building because it looked really good. Next is the original Assassin's Creed. The game was made to be a spin-off of Prince of Persia, becoming one of the biggest gaming series of all time. It is pretty amazing, but that's almost all of the good things about this game. While nostalgia does play a big role for me to not put this one lower on the list, I can't put it any higher as well because the idea was so good and it had all the potential, which Ubisoft did capitalize with the next few titles. But this game suffered a whole lot with being a test subject. Ubisoft experimented with a stealth-focused game with an open-world setting and cool parkour mechanics, but the story was not that good. The gameplay, like I said, had potential, but was not refined yet, and the graphics were not really that impressive. I had no idea why they loved the tailing mission so much because it felt like every second mission was a tailing mission. Also, even though you are an assassin, you can defeat a whole army all by yourself with just 2 buttons. While this game was the stepping stone for the franchise, it had to walk so that others could run, and that's why it's ranked so low on this list. Next up is Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and to be honest, I almost forgot that this game existed. Syndicate came out at a time when Ubisoft were trying to take a break from the yearly releases and wanted to do something new for the series. While that was nice to hear, it did not quite land the mark, because this game was one of the most forgettable ones on this list. But I did, however, like the idea of having 2 different assassins and looking into their story, brother and sister combo, and how their relationship grows in the big city of London was a fresh new start for the series. But they did not make the story as well as the gameplay quite as exciting as I would hope. It also had similar kind of problem as AC Rogue because the game felt a lot like AC Unity, but that's good thing because in my opinion AC Unity has the best parkour and running mechanics, which was almost the same in Syndicate as well. One more good thing about this game was its setting and graphics. It was really good for that time, and it was ahead of its competition. Next up, we have Assassin's Creed Mirage. After the backlash Ubisoft received for Valhalla, they decided to go back to their roots and make an Assassin's Creed game where the main character is actually an assassin and not just some god who can 1v1 an entire army. They even reduced the size of the map, made the game more focused on stealth, and all the good things we came to expect from the series. But it still did not land the mark. That's because the game was made on the same engine which was used for Valhalla, so it essentially played the same. The game was also meant to be a DLC for Valhalla, which they then decided to make a full-fledged game because why not? The parkour was not satisfying. The combat was good but not great. The enemy AI was like a 3-year-old trying to find his lollipop. It was all sorts of mess. Luckily, this was not a full quadruple A release because they priced it around $45, which was still too much for a DLC in my opinion. Next is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I quite like the game. Yes, the game is quite huge and it suffers from the same things that Valhalla suffered, but this game actually had a story. The parkour was still awful, and now you can just straight up jump through viewpoints without landing on a haystack and survive because you are a god and you become the most OP character in the series when you are max level. But the gameplay I felt was actually good. The reason why this game was heavily criticized was because you were actually discouraged to use stealth. If you are a lower level than an enemy, you won't stealth kill them instantly and they will alert the whole camp, which you will have to eventually fight off. So if you are going to fight against an entire army anyway, why waste any time trying to use stealth? I did enjoy my time playing this game, which is why this is higher up on the list. Assassin's Creed Shadow is an interesting game. Ubisoft was trying to appeal to both the audiences, ones who like the large open world 1v1ing an entire army type of game, and ones who'd like the stealthier approach. Yes, this game was surrounded by controversies and all that, but we are not here to talk about that. The game itself is good, and I'm liking it so far. I have to tell you that I have not completed it yet, but I am pretty far into the story. As it lies, it's really fun. I do like stealthier approach more than the brute force one, mainly because of the smooth movement and attack style. There are a lot of ways to infiltrate any base, which was quite refreshing after so many years of playing the same bash through the front gate over and over again. The two protagonist system, as I said before, was a good idea, and this time around they actually implemented it quite well. However, it's not all perfect. I don't think we will ever get the same parkour system as that of Unity ever again, which is a shame. The AI sometimes just stops working. Also, the game is quite demanding and playing it at a high resolution requires a good enough hardware. Next is Assassin's Creed Origins, and I really like this one. From this point, the rest of the games are ones that I actually like. The setting is what made me really enjoy this game. Egypt was a great choice for Origins, and it was one of the last ones to have a decent stealth mechanic, well except for AC Shadows. The parkour was great, the story was amazing, and the graphics were awesome. AC Origins followed the open world formula of previous titles and delivered on what the series was always based upon: assassinations. The combat was so good that it actually felt like there is some kind of danger when facing multiple enemies. You can't go into an enemy area head on and slay everyone in there. This game started the RPG era, the RPG trilogy as people would say, but none of the sequels did it better than the original. The story of Aya and Bayek felt like an Assassin's Creed story with emotional connections and weight. Assassin's Creed Revelations is next, and this is the last one of the trilogy for AC2. The story of Ezio has always been my favorite, and he is the coolest character from the series. Revelations finishes off the story of the legendary character, at the same time giving us some backstory of the original hero, Altair. The modern day events with the Abstergo industry, however, are a little boring and not that interesting. This was supposed to be the finale of the trilogy, sending off Ezio with a bang. But what we got was a little disappointing. The total runtime for this game was about 10 hours or so. Side content, well, there wasn't any. There are some tower defense missions which you can indulge in, but that was not really fun. And why was it in an Assassin's Creed game? No one knows. The game had a beautiful setting of Constantinople, full of great buildings made for parkour. But it lacked any kind of objectives. There were these small main missions and very boring tower defense, side missions, and that's all. I had really high hopes for the series because I absolutely loved the other two. While the gameplay was really good and the new hook mechanic was fun to use, if there was something more, this could have been at the very top. Next we have Assassin's Creed 3. I think this game impressed people because you could see your footprints on the snow when you walked through it. The graphics at that time were not really something to boast about, and having any sort of realism meant that people would be blown away. The story, however, was not really that impressive. They could have done something better, but the gameplay was where this game shined. They included so many new things in this game which seemed almost ridiculous not to have now. Climbing up trees, for example, the footprints, and the much improved parkour system, all of these were implemented with this title. I can see where all the efforts were put in because AC Revelations seems a little rushed. The graphics were really great, and I remember I was really amazed by the character models. I don't know whether I thought they were really good or I finally had a good enough hardware to play at a better resolution, but at that time it felt really good. Next up, we have Assassin's Creed Unity, and this might be one of the best ones in terms of gameplay. The parkour system was absolutely amazing, and this was the game where they stopped people from abusing the parry and kill button, which by the way was so powerful that you can take on a whole army. They removed the instant kill after parry and made it harder to fight in a crowded scenario. This change was really great because now you needed to actually use stealth. Apart from that, the French Revolution was just screaming to be used as an Assassin's Creed game. The graphics were great for that time, and the setting of Paris was top notch. And Ubisoft introduced multiplayer, which was so fun to play with friends for some missions. The downside, however, were plenty during the time of release. The game was almost unplayable when it first came out with so many bugs. It felt like there was no testing done for the game. They just rushed the release. Over time they did fix it, however the damage was done. Again, the story was not that great. I mean, the hero never met his main villain throughout the whole game. I will not spoil it for anyone who still has not played the game, but that's just so dumb. Next we have Assassin's Creed 2, the start of Ezio's story. Now this game is truly amazing. I started with Assassin's Creed 2 and it got me hooked. Everything was improved from the first installment. Believe me when I tell you that Ubisoft explored every bit of Ezio's life right down to when he was born. Throughout the trilogy, we see his growth, his beliefs, and his actions which led to his demise. There is no doubt in my mind that the story is the best selling point for this game, but the gameplay was not that bad either. The combat was great, and the devs knew we love abusing the parry kill mechanic, and so almost all the fights were with a group of soldiers and they were never really alone. Some of the iconic missions are still engraved in my head, like the one where you were flying Leonardo's machine and so many others. You can also find many Reddit posts saying that this was the peak of the franchise, and I won't fault them for it. This was a really fun game set in the beautiful setting of Italy. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is next, and to be honest, both AC2 and Brotherhood are almost the same rank because both of them are very similar. The story of Ezio continues, and they did not disappoint this time around either. The gameplay was improved and so were the graphics, but with time everything is improved, so we can't hold that against AC2. The main reason for putting AC Brotherhood ahead of AC2 was because of the new mechanics they added in the game. We are no longer the low-level assassin who does whatever the order needs it. We now command a group ourselves, and we can order them to act as we want for some missions. This new addition made the game feel like a whole new one and improved on the already stunning game. This was also supposed to be part of AC2, but as the scope grew larger, it became its own thing. But the difference between Mirage and Brotherhood was that Mirage was the DLC of one of the worst AC titles ever, and so that already had no future. Brotherhood, however, was supposed to be part of one of the best games from the franchise, and keeping everything the same would have been a big plus already. And finally, the best Assassin's Creed game is of course Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I have played this game so many times that I lost count. There was no better pirate game where you can roam the seas in your ship and sink other people, build your ship, recruit your crew, and have a super fun time just roaming around. This game started the new generation of the franchise with a huge open world and tons of things to do around the map. Up until now, the games were set in a small town with some points of interest to explore, and that was it. Now with Black Flag, Ubisoft took a huge risk by incorporating a big open world while keeping the same parkour and combat mechanics. And it seemed to work really well. I say keeping the same mechanics, but everything was improved from AC3. The parkour, the combat, and the insane slow-mo kill animations. Everything felt really nice. This was and still is, in my opinion, the perfect AC game, and recently there were rumors of a remastered version coming out later this year, and I'm really excited for it. And those were all the Assassin's Creed games ranked from worst to best. It's crazy how all the latest releases were just lower quality compared to to the earlier ones. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. I know people will have different opinions on this one, and I would love to hear what you have to say about this. If you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe button. YouTube thinks you would like this video popping up on your screen right now, and you can give that one a try. See you in the next one.